You're listening to the Balanced Educator Podcast, episode number 144. Welcome to the Balanced Educator. We're your hosts, Kaylee
and Josiane from EduCalm. Our intention is to equip and empower you to feel more calm, balanced, and joyful in all aspects of your life. Hello and welcome to the Balanced Educator Podcast. We're so excited you're here today. Kaylee and I are sitting here ready to go. I feel like it's been a while since we've podcasted. So excited. So today we are talking about a life-changing hack for us. So do you feel like you're pulled in so many directions at any given moment that you can never complete the tasks you plan to do? Then to catch up, you have to work into your lunch hour, evenings, and weekends. In this episode, we're going to share a strategy that we've learned from the business world that has changed our lives as teachers. We're going to walk you through this process that we follow each week to plan our tasks and to be more efficient than we ever thought possible. But before we get into this conversation, we're excited to share this week's sponsor.
This year is our opportunity to equip our students and ourselves with the tools we all need to be resilient, to have a growth mindset, to have breathing strategies for stressful situations, and to spread kindness and compassion. The thing is, with so much on our plates this year, we need resources that are simple, ready to use, and save us time and energy. Luckily, EduCalm Classroom checks off all those boxes. EduCalm Classroom is the social-emotional learning program that gives you a ready-to-use mindfulness lesson for every day of the school year. All you have to do is press play and enjoy 5 minutes of calm with your K-12 students, in English or en français. Once you've listened to the daily audio, you and your students will both feel ready for a productive school day. Think you don't have time to invest in social-emotional learning? Think again. Teachers that use EduCalm Classroom report that they gain instruction and prep time back. Brandy, a grade 2 teacher, told us, "We invest in this time and got it back tenfold." Emily told us, "My students are better able to focus and learn in the mornings after our practice, which means less classroom management for me." Whether you're back in the classroom with your students this year or doing remote teaching, EduCalm Classroom is the resource that you can depend on to help your students feel calm, focused, and ready to learn. Sign up for EduCalm Classroom now by going to www.educalm.com. Plus, we want to help you feel completely confident using EduCalm Classroom to support mental health and well-being this year. So, when you sign up for EduCalm Classroom before October 31st, 2021, we'll send you our EduCalm Classroom Level 1 online training, a $99 value, for free. You can watch this training video from the comfort of your own home or classroom and feel totally confident using EduCalm Classroom with your students. What are you waiting for? Make this the year you prioritize student well-being as the foundation for calm and focused learning. Sign up for your EduCalm Classroom membership today at www.educalm.com. That's spelled EduCalme.com.
All right, let's dive in to this. I'm so excited about this topic because this has taken our productivity in our business first and foremost from 0 to 100.
Yes.
And then when we spilt this out into our teaching lives, we've became the most productive people on the planet Earth, I think.
And the best part is that it's efficiency. We're so productive, but it doesn't feel stressful.
It feels less stressful.
We're getting more done.
Less balls are dropped.
Yeah, it's amazing. So this is definitely a strategy that our listeners are going to really benefit from.
I totally feel the same. And I feel like we should just say before we get into this that this isn't stuff or ideas that we've really come up with ourselves. We've taken these productivity ideas from other business coaches and professionals, and we've kind of applied them into our lives. But then with the years, we've kind of made them our own.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
So we can't take credit for any of this stuff that we're about to share. but it's been life-changing.
Absolutely.
Okay. So the problem here that we've had our entire lives, like my entire adult life, I recall having this problem. That is getting distracted by all the things, all the tasks that come in. And I always have felt, especially since phones are around, and like specifically once we started having internet and data on our phones, which like that wasn't a thing when I was a young adult, but I just feel like it just got so hard to get into like a really good workflow.
Yes. And you just feel like when you sit down to work, or I do at least, oftentimes I sit down to work and there's just so much coming at me, especially as a teacher. You know, I sit down during my prep and I'm like, okay, I have mountains of things to complete. There's more on this list than I could possibly complete in this time. Sit down with this plan to get it all done. And then, you know, an email pops in, or now we're on Teams as well. So there's messages coming in too. Some are from students, some are from colleagues, some are from admin. And there's just always so many messages coming at me all day.
Too many pings and dings and all the sounds.
Yes. So then I can get easily distracted by these things that are coming in, and then I never am able to actually complete the task that was on my list that I wanted to do during that prep period. So this year is the first year that I really started implementing this system that we do in our business lives into my teaching calendar and teaching schedule. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is life-changing. This makes such a difference. Yes. So it means that I'm taking, you know, less work home, almost no work home, really. I get everything done at school. Every once in a while, you know, there's a couple things that you kind of work a little bit of a longer day to get those things that are...
That's just life.
Yeah. But for the most part, everything gets done during the time that it's supposed to get done. And I feel good about it.
Yeah. So much less stress.
Yeah.
So this is like kind of a two-part thing. The first part is creating an ideal week template. Mm-hmm. And then there's a second part that we'll dive into afterwards. But this is kind of like the foundation to this whole product, like being more productive in the time that we have. So what is this creating an ideal week situation?
So basically you look at your week and you decide, what days should I be working on which tasks? So this way you're not, you know, answering emails every single day, or you're answering only some types of emails some days, but each day of the week has a specific task type that's assigned to it. So it's really great to kind of think of your week first and foremost and go kind of, what is my workflow that I already have? Maybe question like, what's working, what isn't, and what's the reality of what my week looks like? So for example, Mondays, I know I tend to have lots of emails, and there's lots of like administrative tasks that come into my inbox. It can be things like, you know, student attendance, or just kind of like the plan for what's coming up that week in terms of activities and getting those things on the calendar, making sure I'm communicating that with my students. So I know that those things naturally come in a lot on Mondays. So I plan my ideal week so that Mondays is my administrative task days.
Yeah.
And then, you know, what does the rest of the week look like?
Yeah. And when I did this, like for business purposes, I like literally just did a brain dump of like, okay, what are all the things that I get done in a week? Mm-hmm. You know, like, yeah, there's emails. That's one thing. Then there's social media. That's another thing. And I just wrote it all down. Like I just thought about all the things, wrote it down at first. Mm-hmm. So that's another way of doing it. Like not just thinking about like your Mondays in the past, but just like generally an overhaul of all the things.
Yeah. Yeah. So the first part of this process is really just like you said, like a brain dump, kind of getting things on paper.
Just thinking about it.
Yeah, exactly. And then you want to start actually looking at what would create a really productive flow to your week. So if we're looking at every every day as kind of focused on a particular task. Now, for me, in, business world, when we have a full day worth of tasks to complete, you have a full day to do this, it's a little bit more complicated what this ideal week looks like. But as a teacher, I only have one prep period. So there's really only one period that I have control over the work that I do during that period. So really I'm assigning to each prep period what is my main focus for that 75 minutes. And then when I get into that 75 minutes, I am shutting out all other tasks for that day because my task for that day is dedicated to something specific.
You, like, high school teachers are so lucky. You have 75 minutes. Like, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, that is very true. That is very true.
Okay, so you've done your brain dump and then you look at all of your blocks, like your prep blocks. Mm-hmm. And then basically what you're doing is you're assigning each of these things on this brain dump list that have to get done. So you're assigning it within your schedule. So tell me how you did that.
So for example, for my ideal week, Mondays are my administrative task days. So basically when I start my prep on Mondays, I get into my inbox, I sort through what needs to be answered right away, what can wait till later. Just anything that's administrative. Do I have forms that I need to fill out or things that I need to sign up for? Yeah, like there's a lot of administrative tasks. So I know that gets done on Monday. Now, that means that if something comes into my inbox on Wednesday that doesn't need to be immediately dealt with, and that's another thing you have to learn to distinguish. Do I need to do this right now, or is my brain just saying I need to do it right now and I could actually do it?
98% of the time, it's just our brains saying it's an emergency.
Yes.
Just like something to think about.
Exactly. So if an administrative task comes in on a Monday or on a Wednesday, then I assign that to my following Monday. It does not get dealt with until the following administrative task day.
How do you make sure that you don't forget?
So I actually,
what's the system?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, two ways to kind of do this. One is to have a calendar where you're literally just writing it on the next Monday's calendar. So that, for some of us, we're paper planner type of people. So when that email comes in that you can't deal with right now because today is a Wednesday, not a Monday, then you write in your planner for the next Monday, open this email and deal with this email.
And that's what I do with my business one as well, right? Mm-hmm. I feel like we're diverting here though, because we're not talking about the ideal week anymore. Yeah. This is more in the next step.
Yeah.
But I'll just plop it in my calendar for when it's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go back to the ideal calendar. Sorry. Just feeling all over the place today. So Monday is your admin day. So you have the 75-minute block to get your admin stuff done.
Yeah.
What's Tuesday about?
Tuesday is my lesson planning day. So I find that by, Monday, I kind of see how the week started off. And then by Tuesday, I kind of have an idea of what the flow of my lessons are going to be like that week. So I look at my week and I plan what lesson I'm going to do on which day. Now, this is a kind of flexible plan. It's kind of like I think of it as like an outline or like an ideal possibility of what I would complete with my students each day. And then any actual things that have to get printed. Any, assignments that have to be assigned in teams get done on that day and scheduled to go out on the day that it's actually going to be scheduled.
By the end of that 75 minutes, all of the lesson planning things are done, included everything, so that you can literally walk into the class and get her done.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah. Now, as I said, it's not always perfect. Sometimes I'll realize, oh, you know what? I'd like to, add in this activity because I need to clarify something more. That can get added in, but I have a pretty loose plan for the week. Plus, if something takes longer than I thought it would, well, great. Now I have the lesson ready for the following day. So it kind of just pushes back.
This is an ideal week, right? We strive for the ideal week, but it's not, there's always going to be imperfections. That's what, it's just teaching. Yeah. We know this, right? We have to be flexible.
Yeah.
Okay. So Tuesday is lesson planning. What's Wednesday?
Wednesday is actually correct me if I'm wrong. I don't have it in front of me right now. I really rely on having I ideal week calendar in front of me when I'm planning, but is Wednesdays corrections?
Parent check-ins.
Oh, parent check-ins. Right. Okay. So Wednesdays is parent check-ins. So one of the tasks it's an administrative task, but it actually falls onto the Wednesdays is, because I teach in high school, if there's any students that have a certain amount of, absences, I have to contact their parents, get in touch with them. So that would be a task that I would do on Wednesdays. And then if I just want to do a check-in with a parent and let them know their child's progress or anything like that, I know that that's going to happen on Wednesdays. Now, sometimes you'll get a parent email that's going to come in on another day that has to be responded to. That makes sense. Do that. But Wednesdays, I'm making sure that, if I just want to be congratulating a student or doing a check-in, that's the day that I'm aiming for.
Awesome. And then your Thursday is your corrections and your report card grades, it says here.
Yes. So in the past, I've definitely made the mistake of, doing all my corrections, but then waiting till the last minute to actually get it into the reporting system.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So now I do my corrections on Thursdays and I put it directly into our reporting system. So that isn't a task that I need to do at report card time. It's already been done. Once report card time comes around, I just have to write my comments. So by working that in and actually writing that on the day, I'm reminded not to put it off, get it all done in one shot, and then...
because that's your planned time to do that.
Yes.
Perfect.
Exactly.
And then Friday, what do you do on Fridays?
So Fridays, I like to wrap up my week. So Friday is a day where I kind of sit down at the beginning of my prep and I reflect on the week. What did I complete? What isn't done yet? What needs to, lesson planning wise, what needs to get pushed to next week? What took me more time than I thought it was going to take. That's one thing that I've really started practicing this year is actually reflecting on which tasks take me longer than I allotted time for. Because
so that you can correct for the future.
Exactly. I have a tendency to put way too many things or think that everything will take half the time as
I think humans in general do. And we had this problem in our business and it's still something we're working on, where we think we're going to do all the things, but it's like, okay, relax.
You're like, oh, that'll take 30 minutes. And then 4 hours later. Okay. So rather than then feeling guilty that, oh, this took me longer than it was supposed to, when really I'm the one that decided that timeline, I'm just trying to make more informed plans by recognizing how long things actually take me and then planning for that amount of time in my calendar. And then, once I've done that reflection process, then I like to actually make my plan for the following week. So I do kind of like a loose outline. I do my lesson planning on Tuesdays, but on Friday, I like to look at the upcoming week, make a loose plan of what lessons I think I'm going to do. So I'm not actually planning the lessons. I'm just kind of looking at what the scope and sequence of that week is going to look like so that once Tuesday rolls around, I know exactly what needs to get prepared.
Okay. So we just talked about what your ideal week looks like. So this is the step one in this productivity hack that we're sharing today. That is to sit down with your piece of paper so that you can brainstorm, do a brain dump or whatever, and have your calendar or your weekly schedule, or some schools work in a 6-day cycle, whatever it is, sit down with it and put it in there. Mm-hmm. Make your ideal week. Yeah. And for some of us, it might include a bit more time than our prep, depending where we're at, but schedule it in so that you're not working during your evenings and weekends.
Yeah. And if that means that, if you're the type of person that likes to work for half an hour during your lunch hour, so that means that you're not taking things home with you. Which is what I did. Yeah. So then schedule that, write it, on your schedule that for 30 minutes, you're working on whatever task it's going to be, but that you're scheduling for the other 30 minutes, that is your lunchtime, and you're not doing other things. You're eating your lunch and then you're doing the other tasks. So just helping you to kind of visualize what that time looks like and make sure that you're sticking to it, not putting too much on your plate. And yeah, actually one thing that I didn't say about my ideal week is I do check my emails every day. So for each prep period, I check my emails at the beginning of the prep period, but I sort through those emails to decide when they'll get dealt with. So most of the emails do not get dealt with immediately. They get put onto, this gets dealt with on this day. So actually in my inbox, I can get a message to remind me about that message at a certain day. So I can say remind me tomorrow or 2 days from now. So I use that function a lot and that's helpful. Or I write it down specifically on my calendar on the day that it needs to get dealt with.
I'm just having a thought here too that we sort of do in our business, but you could also color code. Like if you have flags in your inbox and you could flag it for Monday is yellow or Tuesday is you could, use really the color coding to just help yourself to be oh, no, this email doesn't need to be dealt with right now. I'll deal with this one on Wednesday or whatever. So that's just a thought that popped into my head just now. But,
yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay. So that's your ideal week. That's step 1. Step 2 then is to create your actual week, which you do every single week. Mm-hmm. Because your ideal week is your guideline. It's just an overview of generally what your weeks should look like. But obviously things change as you go, right? Or things come up that oh, shoot, this isn't in my calendar. Next week I have to deal with this thing. There's an assembly and I need to prepare something or whatever. That's out of the usual.
Yeah. So or even the actual task that gets done during that block that's
what lesson plan you're preparing.
Or which homework are you correcting? Or,
which grades are you inputting?
Yes.
Or whatever. Yeah. So that you do every single week, and it's up to you to decide when you do this. In the business, I always do this on Friday for my next week. Because to me, that's when I feel the best, just ending Friday, knowing exactly what I'm doing next week. Mm-hmm. Other people we know that stresses you out a lot to come up with what you're doing next week. And then you're going to think about it all weekend or whatever. So then do it on Monday morning instead. You choose when you do this. But basically what you're doing is you're just writing out all the tasks that you're going to do during your preps, which your brain right now is probably saying that this is a waste of time. Trust us on this. It is not, because once you've made your decisions for the entire week, then there's no more decisions to make. You just get to work during your preps. You get so much more done.
Yeah. Those, 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there that you would normally take to be okay, what do I need to work on right now? What's really important?
Yeah. It's gone.
And that decision fatigue that you get, especially when you're exhausted as a teacher, you're tired, having to make one more decision.
Which is 100% of the time.
Yeah, exactly. Having to make one more decision is tiring. So if you know that you don't have to think, you just go into your prep and your calendar tells you exactly what you're working on. You don't need to make any decisions. It saves so much time and energy. So this planning process of planning for your week might take you half an hour. It might take you an hour. Sometimes I take an hour to do this planning process.
Sometimes it takes 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It just depends what is going on, right? If it's just your normal week, it'll be quick. If it's okay, there's a lot of weird things going on this week, I need to take the time to make decisions and wrap my brain around all the things, it'll take longer. But I find that it takes less and less long as you do it.
Yeah. The first while, it's you're learning this skill. And then after that, it takes...
But it's worth your time. I'm telling you right now, it's worth your time.
Yes.
You're going to cruise through your work. I still can't believe it. How much more work I get done ever since we really implemented this system.
Yeah. Removing that decision fatigue is huge. And then being able to say, no, this isn't a task that I work on right now. When that email comes in and you're oh, I should deal with this. No, today's not the day for that. This is going to get dealt with tomorrow.
And no one's going to die if you don't answer their email. Let's remember that for a minute. We're so in this culture of this has to get done now. It's not. Yeah. It doesn't need to. It so just does not.
And you know what? I think that doing this process has also taught me to get better at understanding that nothing's a fire. It will get dealt with when it gets dealt with. It will get dealt with in the time it's supposed to get dealt with. And everything's going to be fine.
We used to think everything in our business was a fire.
Yeah.
And everything in our teaching lives was a fire.
Yeah.
Now we know that is not the case, and everything has continued to function.
Yeah.
Even though we started not being stressed about it.
Yeah. Now, another thing that is great about this system too is that it also teaches you to be realistic with how much can get done in a certain amount of time.
Yes.
So when you are putting down your tasks that you want to get done, start paying attention. Are you putting 5 tasks to get done during your 30-minute prep period and you only ever get one thing done and then you feel guilty because you're not getting enough done?
Get rid of the guilt.
Yes. So that's
choose one thing.
Yes. So that is why that Friday reflection process is so important, and recognizing, am I putting like unrealistic things on here? And then you start getting better at recognizing what is effective, what is actually important, and what is not actually important. What's going to move the needle for me and my students, and what is fluff?
Yeah.
And you start getting better
at the work that I'm just creating to create it for myself.
Yes. You get better at saying no and being realistic with how much you can actually do during your time.
Awesome. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about how I like create my actual week every week. So I said I do this on Friday. Mm-hmm. And for me, I love my digital calendar. Like, I also have a paper planner, but it's mostly just like take little notes here and there. What I do is I have a Google Calendar, and I have created my ideal week in my Google Calendar. And so I made every single thing in my Google Calendar as a reoccurring thing so that it comes up every single week. If you don't know how to do that, just Google it. It's super easy. You just like repeat it or whatever. And then what I do is I like open that up, and that's like my base. And then on Friday afternoons, I have my ideal calendar in front of me. And then I overlay a second calendar on top of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
With my actual week.
Yeah.
So it's like a task
I'll
calendar.
just explain that a little bit more. So if you're not familiar with Google Calendar, I would highly suggest you try it out, because we've worked with lots of calendars, and Google Calendar I find is really
easiest.
strong. It's the easiest. It's like the most flexible. It has a lot of options. So in a Google Calendar, you can create more than one calendar. So you can have a calendar that is called Ideal Week that you can turn on and off. So essentially you're just check marking that calendar to see it. And then when you remove the check mark, you can no longer see it. So it still exists. It's still a calendar that you've created, but you can turn on and off whether you're seeing it at the moment.
Yeah.
So we have an ideal calendar. And then we have like our weekly task calendar.
Yes.
And when you're starting on doing this on Friday, you have your ideal calendar selected so you can see it. And then you're overlaying your task calendar on top of it. So continue.
So then I try, like, I will try to fit in, you know, if it's a emails day, then on my actual calendar, I'll try to fit in my emails time at the same time as it is on my ideal calendar. But this also gives me the wiggle room, like say we have a big business project or something, and it's like, okay, well, actually I can take this admin time this week to do this other important thing. But it's like, it's all laid out in front of me, and then I'm not dropping any balls.
Mm-hmm. So it's like
sense?
You're moving puzzle pieces rather than forgetting things. You know, you have it on your calendar, and then throughout the week, if you're like, oh, actually this other task, these admin tasks really need to get dealt with today, well, then you move your email task over to the following day. So it doesn't get forgotten. It just gets switched.
And a simpler way of doing this is just like have your schedule that you originally wrote your ideal calendar in there. Like at school, like I always had like a printed schedule that, you know, you get from your admin or whatever when your music and gym times are or whatever. I know you're in high school, so it's a little different for you. But during those times, you can just literally write in your ideal calendar. And then when you go to create your actual week, that you just have it in front of you. Mm-hmm. Just as a visual.
Yeah.
Like if you're using a paper planner, great. It works just as well. Just have your schedule of your ideal week beside you as you go through the process.
Mm-hmm. And the power of color coding, let me tell you.
Oh, man. Yeah.
That's another thing I love about Google Calendar is you can select different colors for your tasks. So it helps me to like make sure that I'm balancing my week and doing enough tasks that like from all the categories of things that I want to get done. And the visual colors make it fun for me.
I think all teachers can relate to that.
Yeah.
And this is the important piece, though, of the actual week, is that you follow it.
Mm-hmm.
You follow it. And if you know that you're going to have, I want to say it in French, des inconnus, like unknown things that come up, because in the teaching world, unknown, things come up, then plan for it. Like, I don't know, like maybe make the last 15 minutes of like 3 of your preps a week. Make it literally like,
this is when I deal with unknown things.
Yeah, exactly. Like, plan for it, like if you know it's going to come up in the position that you're in. And I do this in my business. Like, I give myself about an hour or 2 every single week, just as like, in case something comes up time.
Yeah. And there's always something. And
there's always
way,
something.
You know, you're dealing with those little mini fires, we like to call them, the things that you weren't expecting that have to get dealt with. You're still dealing with them, but you're not letting any balls drop anywhere else, because you've already planned for the things that have to get done, and you've planned for space to deal with unexpected things.
And even if your brain in that moment, when you're following your calendar, if your brain tells you like, oh no, you don't actually have time to do this right now. No, do it. Follow your calendar. You're going to see that you're going to become so efficient if you keep following the actual calendar that you've made, because you won't have any decisions to make and you just get things done. Like I'm sold on this system.
Yeah, me too. And that's so right that you have to check your brain. And because that was a big thing for me when I first started using the system, was being like, no, I really should be dealing with this other thing. No, I made my ideal week. Yeah,
my decisions.
Yes, the decisions
or your
are
actual
made.
Week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the decisions have already been made. I just follow the plan. It's like, you follow the recipe and it's going to turn out well. So that took some practice for me to start trusting the calendar. And then after a few weeks of seeing how much more productive I was like, okay, now I trust it. But it took some time.
It's been like over a year now that I use the system, and my brain still tells me. But now I can tell it back, like, no, it's going to be fine. And also because I have time planned for this unpredictable thing that has popped up, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I have time for this.
Yeah. Also, make sure that you're planning for your planning time. So we talked about planning your week on a Monday or a Friday or whatever day it makes sense for you. Actually have that in your ideal week calendar, that this is your weekly planning time.
Yeah, like mine is every Friday afternoon for half an hour. It's every single week, no matter what. And when I'm planning my next week, I put that in my plan every single week. So it's not only in my ideal calendar, it's in my actual calendar every single week.
Yeah.
So I hope that's helpful.
Yes. Let us know if you try this out, if you like it, if it helps you to be more efficient with your time, if it helps you to reduce some stress and overwhelm and get more things done in less time. So we'd love to hear.
Yeah, that's your exit ticket for today, is to create your ideal calendar.
Yes. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone that you think would get value from it too. We appreciate you so much, and good luck with your ideal week planning.
Enjoy.